So I'm sharing my screen now. So the agenda of this particular today's session would be to understand how actually the multi-user environment will be worked out. So what is meant by a multi-user environment, and what is the relationship between the local repository and the central repository, and what are the responsibilities of the central repository, especially where we have a different life cycle, software life cycles like development, test, and production, something like that. And once we spend some comfortable time on this particular multi-user environment, we'll try to understand on the what is the try-catch block within an SAP BODS. What is the purpose of this the try-catch block? Normally, it is recommended to use the try-catch block. So what actually meant by an exception handling technique? A lot of people will get confused, so what is the difference between an exception handling and an error handling? So both are different, the way we are going to use it. So we will see these 2 points. We'll also see that what are all the different exceptions actually the try-catch block will be able to handle. So after that, if time permits, we will see that what is an error handling technique. So there is something like so recovery mode, running the job in recovery mode is called as error handling technique. So this is what the today's agenda. So in today's agenda, so we will discuss all these things. And it's more of like you can say that the knowledge purpose application. So I'm also going to perform the design of your job event. So now in today's session we will discuss something like central and local repo. So first we will see that what is central repository and what is the purpose of that. What is central repo and its purpose? So that is what we are going to understand. And also we will see that the relation between central and local repo. So these 2 points we will discuss in depth. So when it comes to the multi-user environment. So please observe carefully. When I'm talking about multi-user environment, I'm talking about a multi-developer environment actually. When I say multi-developer environment, we have one project where we have like the 5 or 6 developers or 10 developers are working. So in this particular scenario, so here you're able to see that in each and every environment, so we have the respect to local repositories for the testing purpose, for the production purpose. But whereas in the development environment, we have something called as 4 local repositories we have. It means to say that 4 developers, they have their own local repositories and they are working on those local repositories. That is what I actually meant by this multi-user environment. The multi-user environment is something like that. If you have a 4 or 5 developers in your project, you need to have 4 or 5 local repositories because each and every developer wants to perform his or her respective activities in the local repository itself. Once the local repository is up and is active, then you can say that the development process is going on. So for very first time, if any developer wants to share the information, there are like several ways how actually he can share the information. One would be to check in the code into the central repository. That is one thing. So when you say check in the code, you're saying that you're exporting the code into the central repository and importing the code to the central repository. That is what actually we can do that. That is what. So whenever you are going to upload something into central repository, that is what is the check-in. Whenever you are going to get any particular object from the central repository is called as get. So two things you have to understand. So check-in the code in the central repository, and also whenever you are going to get the data from the central repository, that is called as a get. Two things are there. So whenever the local repositories, their respective work done is performed or is uploaded into the central repository, the test local repository will be there in order to test the code in the testing environment. After that, in the production environment, you have to again go ahead with live the code. So that is what actually happens here in the multi-user environment. This typical process and life cycle, you already know that. But how actually we are going to migrate, how actually we are going to test it, so everything that you can understand in today's session. So now we are going to perform some steps actually to understand more. So we will creation of central repo. After that, what actually you have to do? Again, register the central repo in TMC. Verify rights on central repo in TMC. Then add the central repo. To local repository. So these are the steps these needs to be performed. So once that is completed, that step is completed, then you will see a lot of options that we will see later on. So now I will jump on to the server. It's connected.
Venkat,
Programs. Yes, please.
Is a central repository is not given for us?
I mean to say about your practice, you mean to say?
Yeah. I mean, like,
yeah, the central repository.
Yeah, go ahead.
Carry on, please.
Yeah, when I try to like create a database and wanted to configure it, a repository. So then I got to know like the client is not available on my remote desktop. So was curious.
What is meant by, okay, what is meant by client is not available?
So where is this like central repository? The client is there on the BODS, right? On the folder, under the folder.
Okay, let's go ahead and see the process. Later on we can think of all the questions. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, that will be the correct option. So SAP user 14. I'm logging in. Yes, I got it here. So as I mentioned previously, so first we have to create a central repository. So how to create a central repository is from the data services repository manager. Now here, while a creation of a central repository, of course, we have to select a central. So what type of the repository that you want to create. So once that is completed, the selection of the repository type, then go to the SQL server and create a database. Now I'm trying to log in into the SQL server. Okay, I can right click on the database. So I've created one database which is SAP user 14 underscore central. That is what I've created. This is the one I've created. Now I'll try to create a central repository into that database, what I have created just now. I will go to the database type as SQL server. In server name, database name will be SAP user 14 underscore central. the username and password for that.
Central spelling is wrong.
Right. Why it is giving a problem here?
Do we have to register this database?
First, we have to create the repository, then we have to register. Let us see. Hmm. 14_central. Okay. It seems to be some problem that we will try to rectify later on. But once you click on create, automatically the central repository will get created in the SQL Server database. So once that part is completed, so you have to go back to the central repository. I just clicked on the central repository, central management console. To go to the data services tab. So let me see whether I already have an existing central repository. So I will go to view ODS. SAP LMS for central. Okay. Repository manager. Central. SQL Server. info EHP6. Enter. And I've just passed username and password and I just clicked on create. So earlier the problem is we have given SAP user 14 underscore small letters of central, but whenever I have verified later on, it seems to be the capital C. That's the reason why I have gone to this again and I've just mentioned the same. Now it is creating the central repository. Now the central repository is ready for that multi-user environment. Then this part is completed, then we already logged in central management console. And configure the database connection. So just give SAP user underscore Microsoft SQL Server. The host would be info PHP6. Database name would be something like an SAP user 14 underscore the central. Is Windows authentication? No. So please pass the username and password here. So this is not a profiler repository. That's the reason why is the repository profiler? No, by default. Connection is successful. I'm saving the connection. And the repository name is SAP user 14 underscore central. Now, where is that central repository? We have to identify because we have to verify rights on the same for the SAP user 14 user. So I'm just navigating through the pages where I can find out our respective central repository. And I have to verify the rights for that particular user on that particular central repository. It seems to be taking some time while doing the navigation here. where is our, we start with S. Unfortunately, there is no find button here. So there we have 14_central. Okay, so we are able to see that. So now we will go to the designer, and here we have to log into central repository. For that, go to the tools and select the central repository. Now we have to add one more central repository. There are all the central repositories that got added previously by some other users. Now I'm trying to add our own central repository, what we have created now. So here, these are all the central repository, but by various reasons, all the developers, like maybe all the users of this particular demo system might have created all these central repositories. And for the user 14, I think we have an access to all. But for now, what is our interested the central repository would be something like an SAP user_central. That is a central repository that we have created for you. So next we will click on OK. So please bear with me. Today seems to be so my screen lag. My screen is a bit lag. So whatever I am speaking and whatever I am showing is a bit different. So that's the reason why. So I've just added now. I just make it as an activate. Whenever we say activate, so it will ask you the password. Okay. First we have to add it, then we have to activate it. See here, when we have activated it, then you will see one more tab here called a central object library. If you observe, whatever the object that we have created, like data flows, workflows, like data stores and file formats, whatever we have created till now, everything is stored in the local object library. See here, this is called the local object library. Local object library. But now, after creation of the central repository and make it active and make it work in conjunction with local repositories, now we will see one more library that is called as central object library. The central object library is very, very important for the reasons. The reasons are, so let me first upload and let me show you the different options what we have. So later on we will proceed from there. Now, so let us take an example that whatever we have here in whatever the jobs we have in BODS demo underscore 6 AM IST, then what actually happens? Just try to add those jobs to the central repository. Add those jobs to the central repository and we'll proceed from there. So right click on the project, go to the project area of the local object library section. Here, let's scroll down to your particular project. Yes, our project is BODS demo underscore 6 AM IST. Right click. And and add to central repository. See here, that is what actually happens here. So what we're trying to achieve here, we are trying to add whatever we have created locally. Please try to add that locally created code to the central repository. So what do you want to add here? We have actually again three options. If you want to migrate, or if you want to upload only the object or object and dependents and the filtering and or etc. etc. Now we will see, first of all, your focus will be on the object and the dependents. Just click on that. So it will ask you to apply some define some comments on that. So maybe you can say that the development, because we are in the development repository, we have developed our task, what actually the user has given us. I have uploaded that information to the central repository. That is what it is now. Now see here, some process is going on. Add object is completed. Now let's go back to central repository. See here in the project section, you are able to see one project and what are the jobs we have in our local repository. So similarly, how many jobs we have and how many workflows we have in the same, how many developers you have. With respect to data flows that we have defined inside each and every project, and with respect to data stores, like and with respect to the file format here. So if we have any file formats, so you can see that in files. If you have any you can have it. So each report log for any of the ship timings in a day, you have to check in the code to the central. That is, you have to understand. It's very, very important. So till this point, do you have any questions? Raju, I think you're referring some questions, right? So what is those questions? Please carry on now.
Yeah, that's the central management console. I don't see the client on my machine. Central management console. Can you hear me, Venkat? Venkat?
Okay. So Raju, I think I understand that. What you're saying is you're saying that you don't have a client installed on your system. So that's the reason why you cannot create a central repository. That is what you're referring to, I guess, right?
Yeah, the central management console, I don't see the client.
Okay. Okay, not a problem. That we will see that. So one problem would be like if all users are using the server at your end, like along with other team members, then if it is working in one system, then it should work in all the systems. That is one thing. If it is not working in one system, it should not work in all the systems. That's the only thing, that only test we have to do, that to confirm where is actually the problem. Okay. We will see that later on. When the session is completed, maybe the person we will see that. So that is one thing. So this is how actually the exchange of code between local to central is achieved. So once this part is completed, now what we are going to do next? So we are going to do a lot of operations here. A lot of operations means, so we have some codes in the job. So what happens if job is modified? Let us take an example. Today one developer has developed one batch job actually. So the batch job would be something like JP underscore while loop underscore 6 a.m. IST. So he changed something, and he has to upload into the central. Then what he has to do? That is directly you understand here. So there are some points where it needs to be followed. I mean to say the mandatory rules. See here we have something called as JV underscore while loop underscore 6 MIST. This is a job that I already added. That is already there in the central. Now if I am trying to do the same object again, add to central repository is grayed out. So that's the reason why. So what you can do is you can just right click and try to add the central repository because it is grayed out. So what actually you can do is you can go to the central repository here and now right click here. Right. So this is called as checkout. So checkout means getting the code from local to central. Sorry, from central to local is called as a checkout. That is one thing. And so initially, so if you want to check in, what actually we already did a check-in into the central repository. We have to go to central repository with respect to job and try to check out the job with object independence without placement. That we have to follow. Check out object independence without replacement. checkout without replacement is completed. So that part is completed successfully actually. Now what we are going to do here? Now see here the check-in option is enabled. So what central repository. You don't have to go to in the check-in space. If you want to add more at the job, then you can do is check-in with objects and dependents or with filtering. That is what we are going to see. So I will say that check-in again with objects and dependents. And it is like giving the comments, so you can leave it. So once this step is completed, you can say that our check-in and checkout operation to central quality is completed actually. This is how the central repository activation will be performed. We have a lot more options we have actually mainly. So we have something called, let's see here, get the latest version. So we can maintain the versioning of the jobs also. When I say versioning, if you go to the show history. So let us take an example show history we have. So we have, it says that version 1 initially and actioning it got created actually. Okay, that is what the history says that. Now, if you remember the second time I have uploaded actually. So that's the reason in order to make track of versions, I want to make some labels for here. So I will say that while loop version 1. So we have defined the label here. Now right click on the central repository and go history, show history. It says that this is same version 1 and it is labeled on this particular date and time. That is one thing. And second thing is, if again I want to perform initial check-in because I want to check off. So right click, check in, objects independence, or else you can also say that get latest version or undo checkout. You can also do any options here. So now in the checkout, objects independence, now I will right click again and I will checkout with filtering. Checkout with filtering is very important. The important points are, so we have a job, we have a data flows, we have a data source in specific, these two, and maybe these two data sources are maybe pointing to the production environment. And while doing the export of your job into the central repository, either you can select a production, or else you can select a dev, or else you can select a test. So all these points are very much will be taken care in this particular central repository manager. If you don't want to have, you can exclude these. I mean to say, like, I don't want to check in the data source into the central. This option is specifically used whenever we are trying to move across development to test and test to pro. If you are doing such a type of an activity, then you can go ahead with this type of requirements. So click on cancel. So you can do a lot of things like here. So if you want to label it again, you can always label. So you can see the history again, something like this. Okay. So let us see that we have something called as the JB underscore while loop. So I will take the same example and I will try to save it and run it. Here I am trying to open an existing job. So this is an existing job. And now we are trying to perform an activity. The activity would be something called as add this particular job to repository. And I want to run the job once again, assuming that there are some changes here in the job. You can run the job in debug mode if you want to understand anything got wrong, or else you can simply click on execute. So why it is we have to modify the job. It is not mandatory that we have to modify the job. But in the real time, so normally I have completed my shift yesterday and I have uploaded the code to the central repository, and today I came to the office and again I did some modification to the same job. Then what is my the point here? My point here is I want to maintain the different versions. I want to keep the copy of yesterday's. I want to keep the copy of today's in my central repository. Whenever I require, I will bring the yesterday's copy and today's copy. Or there are some instances where maybe the previous copy is correct, maybe the existing copy or whatever the copy that you have created today or job, that is not correct. So by keeping all these points in view, so versioning is also very important. The factor that needs to be considered while doing a migration. When I say versioning, it will keep your yesterday's copy. It will keep your today's copy. That is what called as a versioning. So version 1 of your JB underscore while loop underscore 6AMIST. So version 2 of JB underscore while loop underscore 6AMIST. So all the things are very much required in this particular SAP BODS underscore 6AMIST the project. Now, so let's go back to your central repository. Go back and now right click on this and show history. So that is also you can do that. Or first create an objects and dependents without replacement. So that is checked out by, see here, when I did check out, I'm taking the code from central to local. Okay, that's the reason why it is called as a check out option. Check out for the repository SAP user underscore central repository, and BODS is a user who did a check out. So you understand that point. So after that, so once that part is completed, now right click on this particular JB underscore while loop underscore 6AM, then do a check-in with objects and dependents. Now, do you want to continue? Yes, I want to continue here. This is a comment that I have mentioned for all. Then, so you can say that you can the show history here. So after that, what you can do is you can always get latest version here. See here, if I say latest version, so whatever the latest version you have, that version that can be maintained and that can be labeled across. So or if you want to label latest version, you can also do that. Get the latest version from there. So all these things are very much important while doing a migration from central to local and local to central. So if you go to the another environment, you can always bring all these codes into the central repositories. So this is how actually you are going to have the central and local repository. The communication will be there. So in short, this is how actually you are going to do that. So let me show you. This is what actually happens here. So first we have to log into the local repository. Then we have to activate the connection to the local repository to central repository. So after that we have to get the jobs, get the objects, get the latest version from the object central repository. Then we have to perform the view and run the job. So that is what actually we can do that. As a 4-step process that describes the relationship between the central and the local repo. So once this activity is completed, actually, so you can say that our central and local repository are in sync or are connected. So if you see the another diagram where we have one central repository and we have something called as 3 local repositories. Okay, see here what actually happening here. So if we have a local repository for user A, local repository for user B, and local repository for user C, we have these 3 things. Then what you can do is you can have a edit the one workflow in user A. Let us take an example that user A is one developer. B and C are also similar developers, and they are connected to one central repository, and they have changed something in the what is called as locale. So they have changed something. Let us say an example that in the local user A. In that case, what actually we can do is we can always check in the code to the central, and the local repository B will get the workflow that is only read only, and we have one more that is called as one more what do you call as one more workflow that is called as read only for the local repository. The guy who has created the job and who has uploaded it, that guy will have a full control over that particular workflow. He can delete it, he can do whatever he has to do or he wants to do. That options are also there. You can leave, he has control that and everything else. So that's what actually happens whenever it comes to the relationship between the local repository and the central repository. So if you want to compare even the object that is there in the central with the object that is there in the local. So you can see here objects to local compared to the local that is one thing. Okay, I want to do that first. Object and local job comparison. See here, this is how actually happens. This is in central copy and this is a local copy. It is trying to compare each and everything, the name, the script, everything it is shown here. This is what consolidated actually. So deleted, if anything got deleted, if anything got changed. So similarly, so we have something called as anything inserted, changed, or the consolidated that you will be able to see in this box. Okay, so currently we don't see any particular the problem here when compared to the central with the local. So that's the reason why. So you can always say that. So nothing got changed from the source to the target. So if you see that this is what like I have removed just now. See here, this is what something called as column 1, column 2, and this is the date format we have. And data store configuration flag is set to no. Here I have just removed it by pasting here, something like that. Okay, so we can ignore this point, not a problem. Similarly, if I scroll down a bit, do you guys understand like what is central and what is the local, what is the difference? Just bear with me for the session. there is a time lag in my screen and what I'm trying to tell you. That's the reason why I'm a bit slow today. So when it comes to the central and local, this is the maximum work any developer can work. Other than that, normally we won't be able to. So that's the reason why. So you have to make sure that so you work in combination with the central and the local. So any questions in this with central and local repository combination? Okay, guys, actually, seems to be, like the voice is also bad. So I see that, the today's session, I think you understand what is central and what is local, but normally you don't get a chance to work on all these different types of the options what I have given, unless you've given an access. Other than that, everything is same and straightforward. So in tomorrow's session, we will take up, try and catch block, where it will be called as an exception handling technique. That exception handling technique will help you to understand what is a try catch block, how actually we are going to handle the exceptions, and etc. etc. So do you have any questions? I'm hanging up the call the few minutes early. Then I okay. So please bear with me for today, and we'll continue tomorrow. Any questions before we hang up the call?
Venkat, is it possible to see now about the console management, the central management console?
Sorry, can you repeat once again, please?
Is it possible to see
can you repeat once
central
again,
management console? Let me type it out.
Yeah, I will talk to him, and I already drop an email to server guy, and he has to check and he has to get back to us. That is pending. Okay, but the central management console, they won't be able to give you an access. So because the central management console is everything, right? If the central management console is down, the entire the BODS application is down. So that's the reason why normally they don't give you any access. But yeah, you can put your the query in the training blog, and so maybe I will also drop an email to the Devi, and maybe she has to take care of it.
Okay, Venkat.
If you don't have any questions, I want to hang up the call for today. So we have taken only 1.5 hour today session almost. So instead of 2 hours, I'm hanging up the call half an hour early. Okay, thank you guys.